Report from Guard Lieutenant Vesmar to his superior, Guard Captain Miller. 8th of autumn, year 122, of the Blessed Age, Bloodhaven. Sir, my investigation into the queer murders, disappearances and sightings that have happened in the last week have irrefutably yielded results, and I demand additional reinforcements and resources to find the roots of these mysteries and put an abrupt end to them. As of yet, exactly 14 bodies have been found, bearing the same signs of mutilation: scooped out eyes, depraved occult carvings, mostly on the torso, and incisions around all the major veins and arteries. All of these loathsome practices have always been done with great precision, and I refuse to believe that a singular madman would be capable of such a time-consuming feat in such a short span of time. That is not to mention that most of the bodies were found in the docks that, on your orders, remain an almost unpatrolled hive of loathsome indecency, which leads me to believe that our sample of corpses is but a fraction of the true amount. Your overindulgence on ignoring the docks is perhaps also why you ignored my previous reports about strange disappearances and sightings of horrid creatures. Many denizens of that filthy, disease-ridden hive claim that their family members disappeared from their beds in the middle of the night. The people were terrified and wouldn't talk to me until I forced them to, and even then I had the most quintessential suspicion that something was deliberately being hidden from me. The topic that evoked the most wrath in the interrogated citizens were the creature's sightings. I managed to acquire no detail on their appearance or behavior, but only on the fear they caused in the ones who saw them. As you denied me any support in my investigation and lent me no additional guards, I was forced to take matters into my own hand and try to infiltrate the docks with only one of my fellow guardsmen. Our disguises were those of simple beggars, abundant in the area, and we observed anything that would lead us to the trail of the diabolical events. The day was uneventful, and we were only witnesses of the festering depravity that remained ignored, but by night we discovered something that should indicate the scale of the evil we are dealing with. We were ocular witnesses to a hooded congregation of at least 30 individuals, their signs of heresy proudly worn on their occult robes. The mob paced from one house to another, moving as if still sleeping, and a select few of them, carrying some ungodly scrolls with them, entered these houses. From each home, a new individual joined the congregation, as if forced to do so by some dark powers, and was given the same robes of their wretched order. We remained unseen on their tracks the whole night to see where their hideout was, and they all converged in an old and a rotten, forsaken warehouse. The trail ended there, but when I peeked inside the structure later, it was empty. All that remained was a single one of those devilish scrolls I mentioned earlier in my report. It was covered in indecipherable cacography and glyphs, but also mucus and strange, festering membrane of sorts that was certainly of otherworldly kind. With such a dire and condemning evidence of apostasy and dark rituals, I dared to contact the paladin chapter in our city to tell them of my findings. I sent them the scroll as proof and an object of study and translation, so that their understanding of the cultist threat growing in our city would surpass your ignorance, and things could be handled once and for all. After the translation was cursorily completed and horrid rituals of eldritch origin were found among the glyphs, I was given an ultimatum by the Order. If their hideout of this cult is not found and eradicated in 3 days, and if their leader is not captured within a week, the Paladin Order will begin a full purge on the squalid streets of the docks. And that is why I demand additional reinforcements and resources, so it does not have to come to that. If you choose to remain inactive, the resulting loss of lives will be on your hands, sir, and I will make sure the populace of the city will know that. Your loathing of me might be abundant, Captain, but let it not cloud your judgment about this matter, as I believe that this corruption is greater than we think. In the years following the Bloodhaven massacre, this report was censored, restricted, and archived. This remains the only original copy and can only be accessed by scholars and clergy, whose faith in Zutar is deemed unshakable. Transcribe interrogation of a detained cultist, led by Guard Lieutenant Vesmar. 9th of autumn, year 122 of the Blessed Age, Bloodhaven. You have been found guilty of participating in murder possession of magical items and heresy of the highest order. Your execution is inevitable, but your cooperation might make your death much quicker and more painless than it needs to be. Tell us where we can find your leader and your other hideouts, and you shall be mercifully put to an executioner's sword this very morning. Withhold information, and your endurance to pain shall be put to the test. If even then you refuse to talk, you shall be sent to the Paladin Order, where they will use their own methods of extracting secrets. Sir, please, I don't know anything. It's like I've awoken from a dream. I had these horrible visions and nightmares. I was alone in the vast black emptiness, and that thing appears. It was watching me. I couldn't do anything but to freeze in its gaze. I tried to look away, but it was everywhere. It was getting closer and closer and faster, but it was getting to me from everywhere. I felt like I was falling towards it, like when you jump from a great height and you feel the force in your belly as you are approaching the surface, but instead of landing, you just grow closer and fall faster, but you never reach land. Sir, please help me, please, Stop with this madness. You think I haven't heard such things before? Each one of you lot were tested to see if you were controlled by arcane means, and none of you showed signs of magical interference. You want to tell me it was divine powers that compelled you to murder and cavort with evil? How dare you defile Zutar in such a way? I would never willingly betray Zutar's name, I promise. I would tell you everything I know if I could, but I don't remember anything. But please, I just want to go home. Let's say that I believe you. Now what can you tell me? Are you from the docks? No, sir, I'm from the Brewers District. I haven't been to the docks for at least a year, sir. What day was it before you forgot? 6th of autumn, sir. That's quite recent. Tell me, was there anything strange in the district? Any strange rumors? Any suspicious behavior? Any dangerous individuals treading the night? Nothing, sir. Everything was completely ordinary. There were some rumors, of course, but I had not held them up to anything. There were not talks of these cultists skulking around, kidnapping people and doing rituals. You say that you have awoken just prior to the interrogation, yes? Yes, sir. I don't remember anything after I went to sleep that day. Except for those nightmares, of course. Yet you know we are talking about cultists and disappearances. And dark rituals. Things I believe I haven't mentioned once. I can... How do you know of these things? Answer me! Please don't, I don't know. Not again. Mercy, please. What mercy? The one you have shown to the victims of your depravities. If there is any human decency in you left, tell me where your leader is, so that this madness can stop. Otherwise you are wasting my time, and there is no further point in this interrogation. Perhaps torture will make you remember. The interrogated starts mumbling inaudibly and spasmodically shaking. He's coming. We are but servants, we are chosen, we are rewarded, we are blessed, What in Zutar's name is happening here? The interrogated seems to be going through a trance of sorts. There is foam at his mouth, and his joints seem to dislocate across his whole body. His limbs are getting longer, and his face starts concaving into itself. The dream has awoken. Embrace him. Everyone get away from that thing, and get some more guardsmen here before its chains break. This transcript was later found in an unrecognizable heap of flesh and blood that used to be the body of the appointed scribe. The Cult of the Dreamers Case File, Volume 8, Case Closed, 18th of September, Year 122 of the Blessed Age, Bloodhafen. The latest information gained during the last 2 days of the investigation proved crucial to ending the threat of the Cult of the Dreamer. After a full translation of the cultist rites, and due to the few unfortunate interrogation incidents that had happened in the first days of the investigation, it was found out that some of the cultists might only be mind-controlled innocents, even though paladin inspections found no magical residue, meaning the mind control was not arcane in origin. In a few cases, trying to disrupt the mind control resulted in dangerous incidents. All of those who were successfully released from their delirium were purged by the Paladin Order to ensure that they haven't fallen victim to the corruption. Those capable of speech and thoughts were afterwards questioned about what they had remembered, and their recollections only confirmed the suspicion that the roots of the cult were concentrated in small layers all over the city. Finding and dealing with them all would be almost an impossible task without any further intel. Upon hearing these news, Duke Marion Lavalle was about to put the city districts into lockdown, order a curfew, and let soldiers methodically sweep through every household, but Guard Lieutenant Viesmar, who had been leading the investigation into the cult, requested the Duke to give him 1 day, and that he would find the location of these lairs, and his soldiers would then attack these cultist dens without harming civilians. Lieutenant's request was granted, and in the next few hours, all cultists that were still under the effects of mind control were questioned, declared innocent, and let free. Lieutenant Viesmar then ordered his men to discreetly observe them and to report all of their movements, especially in the night. Without a single exception, all of these mind-controlled individuals left their homes after dusk, and were then seen to be congregating in various buildings across the city. Upon receiving reports about all of the observed victims, Lieutenant Viesmar relayed the information to the Duke, and large assaults were ordered at once against all of the reported locations. The night ended in dozens of deaths and captures, but most details remain unknown, as reports from the assaulting soldiers were often very chaotic, and it would seem that what they had seen in these dens proved scarring to their minds. Perpetrators who were accustomed to the dark rituals and who were consciously behind the mind-controlling rites were interrogated and tortured to find all the remnants of the cult, and soon the cult of the Dreamer was all but eradicated. The Duke and the Paladin Order were appeased and believed that while some cultists might still have escaped justice, they will be caught eventually. Guard Lieutenant Viesmar was commended for his initiative concerning the cult, but was also stripped of active guard duty for disobeying orders, blackmailing a superior, and disregarding authorities. After he ignored the order not to continue in the investigation into the cult, believing that there was something that eluded everyone's sight. On the very same night, however, Lieutenant Viesmar was ambushed in his bed by a lunatic wielding a queer occult dagger. He managed to overpower his assailant, but not without suffering very severe wounds that do not seem to heal properly. The very next day, it was found out that most of the mind-controlled citizens were suddenly cured of the symptoms of mind control, and once properly examined, they were deemed fit to return to society. Lieutenant Viesmar was hastily reinstated back into active duty, and Guard Captain Miller was relieved of duty instead for endangering the populace. The strange dagger of meteoric iron and strange embedded gems of unknown cosmic origin was deemed dangerous and taken by the Paladin Order for safekeeping so that it would never fall into wrong hands. Unless further intel is received, the Cult of the Dreamer case is considered closed. Addendum by Knight Captain Dietrich Menge, 12th of March, year 123 of the Blessed Age. All mentions of the dagger in this volume and all its copies must be erased. We must not repeat the same mistakes again.